Welcome to the Lemons and Pineapples podcast. I'm your host, Emma O'Brien, personal development coach, heart math practitioner, dog photographer, and entrepreneur. In this podcast, I share tools, strategies, and amazing guest interviews to help you improve your mindset and your well-being with a sprinkle of fun and probably some mention of dogs along the way. So without further ado, let's squeeze the day. Hi folks, welcome to episode 69 of the podcast. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how your thoughts shape your reality and what you can do to gain a bit more control over how your life unfolds by better managing what's happening inside your brain. Everything that's in your life right now is as a result of your thinking. In the moment right now, you're creating your future. It's influenced by the thoughts you have, the feelings that result from those thoughts, and the action or lack of action that comes from those feelings. Your children, your pets, your partner, your job, your clothes, your house, everything that's in your life right now is there because you made a decision in the past to allow them to be there. Your past thinking has created the life you're sitting in today. And I think that's quite a profound realization to just sit with for a moment, because often the people I'm coaching are in a space where they're very stuck. And if you don't do something today to move yourself forwards, you will still be in the same place in 6 months' time. And that's quite powerful. That's pretty powerful. So the successes you've achieved in the past are thanks to the thoughts you've had, which have led to you taking specific action. And like I've said just now, the things you don't have and the progress you aren't making is as a result of the thoughts you have been and are thinking. We have around 60,000 thoughts a day, which is a huge amount. 80% of those are negative and 95% of them are repetitive. So if you're simply repeating the same thoughts, you're going to keep taking the same action and you're going to keep seeing the same things showing up in your life or not showing up in your life. Take a real life example of this. So let's say you started your day at work feeling fine. And then as you make a coffee, you're talking to a colleague who's going through a divorce, and she starts to tell you how difficult her husband is being about the terms of the divorce. You sympathize with her because you've also been through this. And as you're walking back to your desk, you start to think about and recall how appalling your divorce really was. And even though it was a decade ago, you start to remember the fighting, the unfairness, and the misery. And before you know it, you're feeling angry, irritated, and riled up as if you are going through the divorce again. You've just brought all of those old feelings back up to the surface. The phone rings, you bark at the person on the other end like they just stepped on your last nerve, and for the remainder of the day, you feel fed up and you have no idea why. And because you're fed up and you're very distracted and you're feeling agitated, you don't get much done. All you can think about is that bastard ex-husband of yours. And then you get behind on your work, which causes you to feel overwhelmed. And then you have to spend the weekend catching up on the work you didn't do. Then you start to feel resentful. And so the thought machine keeps feeding your life. And you end up on a downward spiral into perpetual negative thinking. All started by one conversation to which you responded with a set of thoughts, which generated a set of feelings, which caused you to behave in a certain way. Unless you start to change what's going on internally, what's happening externally won't change either. On the flip side of the office scenario, if you're able to maintain a regular state of calm by managing what's happening in your body and in your brain, by being able to stay focused on what's working right now in your life, and by coming at life from a space of calm, responsiveness, and just being in the moment and knowing that you can cope with what comes at you rather than being reactive all the time, you'll have a far better day-to-day experience of life but that is easier said than done, right? Here are a few ways you can start to get a handle on your inner world so you can start to see a different shift happening in your outer world. Pay attention to how you feel throughout the day. If you were feeling great and then all of a sudden you start feeling raging anger for no reason, what was the thought process that came before that feeling of raging anger arrived? What set it off? You are never going to get rid of situations that are triggering. That's life. However, if you can recognize when you've been triggered, even if it's an internal trigger, and often it is an internal trigger, it's a thought that pops up that triggers a mood shift. If you can catch that before the negative thoughts take over, you will stop yourself being blindsided by it and having your day completely ruined by a thought that popped up. I mean, they're so powerful when you start to really unpack this and look at this. Manage your stress. The more stressed and on edge you are, the faster you will be tipped over the threshold of reactivity by your own thoughts. So I love to start my day with a meditation. I practice heart math techniques, and these are techniques I also teach my clients, and they are superb for calming a frazzled nervous system and the subsequent unhelpful thoughts. That state of frazzle is really good at producing. If you can calm your system down, you are less likely to be bombarded by a bunch of negative, reactive thoughts throughout the day. What you eat, how much you sleep, and the medication and supplements you take will also influence the quality of your thoughts. So be mindful of how you feel after you eat, because you might find that the certain things you are putting into your body that are causing a not great reaction to happen internally for you. The end of a sugar spike, for instance, can cause irritability. Some medications will increase anxiety. On the flip side, some supplements like 5-HTP, ashwagandha, and if you're open to it, psilocybin microdoses can help boost a positive mood. So you can help yourself by being mindful of what goes in and just monitoring the reaction you have to the stuff that you're eating. That's a really easy change to make if you start to become mindful about it. Notice your thoughts. Stop every so often and pay attention to what is going on in your mind and what you're thinking. Is what's trotting through your mind right now helpful? If not, can you switch your attention to something that is? It's talked about a lot, and it's a practice that's really simple and it's really, really underrated. And there is nothing woo-woo about this. If you're in a foul mood and sliding down a nasty thought spiral, stopping to list out 10 things you're grateful for right now will instantly shift your mood. I guarantee you're not going to want to do it. You're going to do it through gritted teeth, because often we tend to get caught up in our negative thinking and it almost becomes a little bit addictive. So if you can break that state by listing out 10 things you're grateful for, you're going to stop it in its tracks. It does take a bit of willpower. And like I say, you're probably going to be quite reluctant to do it. But just do this a couple of times. I'm going to dare you to do it and see how in the moment everything shifts quite instantaneously when you take your focus off the rumination and the negative diatribe that's going on in your mind, and actually you switch to, right, what can I actually appreciate right now? Even though I might not want to, what can I put my focus on? Very, very powerful. The more you think about something, the more well-worn its neural pathway becomes. That's why it takes quite a bit of inner work to shift old ingrained patterns of thinking, feeling, and behaving that keep you stuck. Unhelpful thoughts become habits, and like all habits, they can be broken. You just have to be quite persistent with it and catch them and check them. It takes work, but that's why it's called work. That's why it's inner work. That's why it's self-development work. It takes a bit of time and it takes a bit of effort to really see a shift, but you will see a shift if you persist with this work. And lastly, what I wanted to share is if you find yourself ruminating on the same thing day after day, there's likely a deeper belief at play that is driving that thought loop. If you get curious, can you uncover what that belief is? This belief work is really instrumental in shifting old ingrained thinking patterns. And I want to talk to the worriers here. So you might be using worry as a means of trying to control your life. A lot of people do this. It's very, very common. You are not alone. Worry tends to be something that you might do under the false assumption that by worrying, you're stopping the thing that you're worrying about from happening. It's a control mechanism, if you like, but it actually isn't an effective one. You can't control everything in life. You can't stop things from happening. You can only control something you have power over, but we worry about the things we don't have power over. And all that worry does is it stops you from being present, and it stops you enjoying life. And it just really saps the fulfillment out of being here and being alive. So can you spend some time figuring out why you worry? What purpose does the worry serve for you? Does it make you feel safe if you think you've figured out all the possible solutions to all the possible things that could go wrong? My guess is it probably does. But often underneath a constant worry habit is a belief that the world isn't a safe place, and that the worry is a means of trying to preempt any catastrophe that could happen to make you feel safer. That's why it's such an addictive and unpleasant habit and pattern to be in, because we kind of almost feel good as a result of doing it, even though we don't, because we're racked with worry. So the belief that's underneath your worry is where the work is for you to do. Can you start to unpack, where did this belief come from? I've used the example of the world isn't a safe place as a belief which could drive worry. It's a very common one. It's a very big one. Yours might be slightly different, but the questions I'm asking here will be equally applicable. Where did the belief come from? Do you remember where it came from? Is it something somebody said to you? Is it something that happened? Is it a belief that's even true? If you can start to question it, you'll start to loosen its power over you. And thought work is one of the aspects of coaching that I do with clients that is incredibly powerful. Our thoughts are what keep us stuck, and our thoughts are what move us forwards. So when you can work with them and understand them, you can change them, and in the process you can change your life. And I'm not overstating this here. When you get a handle on what's happening between your ears and you take the control back of it, you really can steer your life in a far better forwards direction. So if this episode has resonated with you and you'd like to dive a little bit deeper into thought work and into the work of challenging the looping dialogue that goes on in your mind and challenging the beliefs that drive that, I have a free worksheet that will help you locate your unhelpful beliefs and start to shift your thoughts into a far better zone. So if you would like this free resource, simply pop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Emma O'Brien Coach. DM me the word thought and I will send the worksheet straight over to you so you can get going with it and start to shift yourself out of a space of stuck and get back into forwards momentum and creating the kind of life that you'd really like to be living, rather than one that has you stuck in worry all the time. Thank you for joining me for this episode, folks. I hope you have enjoyed it. I will see you same time next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it, please share with your friends and be sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review, especially if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. To find out more about my one-on-one coaching, please visit my website, which is emmaobriencoach.com. And remember, folks, when life gives you lemons, you can always choose another fruit. See you next time.